Welcome to the Unfiltered Path Podcast, where we explore life's journey without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, struggles, and transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of truth and to be moved, be inspired, and discover that you're not alone on this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Duval. I am the owner of Valued Productions, and I am one of your co-hosts here today at the Unfiltered Path Podcast. My business provides video marketing strategies to help businesses turn strangers into clients. I'm super excited to be joined with my co-host today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Trinity Baker. I am a mindset coach and motivational speaker. I help my clients go from survival mode to thrival mode, loving every single day and really feeling fulfilled. And that is my mission, to help everyone that I come across get to that point. And I'm joined here with my beautiful co-host.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I am an aerialist. That's a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people how to do it as well. I perform all over the town. Excuse me. I perform all over town. I have a traveling rig, so it puts me in a situation to provide education and entertainment wherever I go. And we are here with our wonderful guest today.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sarah Doucette. I am the author of the book Stronger Than That. A domestic violence survivor uncovers the truth about her abuser. I'm a survivor using my lived experience to advocate for other people within the community of intimate partner violence and survival.
Sarah, so amazing to have you on. We were just talking before the podcast that this is a topic that the Unfiltered Path podcast in our almost year mark has not talked about. And it is such an essential topic to talk about because there are so many people in this world who experience intimate partner violence, as known as domestic violence, in some way. And I think that we have to create the awareness that that is more than what you said, the bruises and the blood, right? So tell us a little bit more about what domestic violence or intimate partner violence could look like. And that's more than just like what we see in the movies, right?
Yeah, I always like to say that it's more than black eyes and bruises, right? You know, abusers don't typically start out the gate with fists and punches. It's usually a long kind of systemic breakdown of the victim as a person, right? It starts with emotional abuse. It starts with emotional abuse, control, all these different types of things, cutting them off from their support system. I know my ex-husband drove wedges between myself and my family, myself and my friends. And, towards the end, I had him and I had his family. And that was really the only people that I had contact with outside of work, which is another reason that a large portion of intimate partner violence involves financial and economic abuse, which can look very different. As a former financial advisor, I spent a lot of time in the realm of talking about financial and economic abuse because it was also a very large portion of my story. But I had said that the only people I really had contact with outside of my ex-husband and his family was my coworkers. And that's why a lot of people who are in these relationships also are forced out of their jobs. And that can happen in a lot of different ways. But they basically make it so that you only rely on them, that you have really no way out. And if the threat of violence isn't enough to keep you there, there are other barriers to getting out of a relationship like that. So yeah, it can look really different depending on who you are, what stage of life you're in, right? Like if you're a teenager in high school with a new boyfriend or girlfriend, it can look like somebody not approving of your friends on Facebook and Instagram and who you're following and who you're getting instant messages from or DMs from. And frankly, that's none of their business, right? Like they don't get to control that portion of your life. So we have started seeing more and more statistics come out from the National Domestic Violence Coalition that talks
Sorry, I didn't mean
specifically.
to laugh.
Oh, that's okay. But it
All I
talks
thought was like how I'm that person that tells people they can't, like I control the media thing. So I was like, oh boy, I better check myself.
I mean,
I
you know, there are
identified
people,
with that behavior, I guess, a little bit.
yeah. And I mean, there is like part that isn't domestic violence related where like maybe we have a past trauma, someone cheated on us, and
Yeah.
so we're just like constantly now like paranoid about that. So it isn't like, none of these things are 100% like that means that you're in danger, but they are red flags.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, no, I know. Like it was nice to like identify with something. Like and from the opposite side, not being a victim, like, oh, maybe I should chill out with that.
I think
I
like
think it's on a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the spectrum.
Like
Yeah.
if you think about this question, like this is a question I would ask a client is like, what's your intention here with this action? What is your intention? And obviously abusers are not asking themselves that. However, like that's how we can do a little self-reflection is like, well, what is your intention? If it is stemming from, okay, in a previous relationship, I was cheated on, and I'm going to ask my new boyfriend, like, who's in your DMs is different than him saying to you, who's in your DMs? I don't want you talking to anyone that I don't approve of. Right. Like,
Right.
And I think
True.
that's what I love and I'm going to love about this conversation is that we need to normalize the questions, right? So in a new relationship, just because the partner is asking you who's in your DMs, it doesn't immediately mean they're going to be an abuser, but you need to ask the question, what's your intention here? Is your intention to seclude me from my family and friends and control that? Or is your intention to be like, hey, I was previously cheated on and I've got a little wound and trauma here. I need you to reassure me that you're not going to be talking to 20 different men in your inbox, right? Total different. And I love that. I love that this conversation is coming up because creating the awareness is also creating the line, like creating awareness of the line. Where is that line?
Allowing them to know that there are boundaries, there are things that you are not going to allow them to cross. And the thing is, it's usually never just one thing, right? So it's the control of who you're in contact with. And I think everybody who's in a relationship, if you're like making new friends of like either the like if you're a woman who dates women and you're making new women friends on there that are like flirtatious, that's going to be a problem for anybody who's in a relationship. However, if they're like, I don't like that friend of yours, like you've been friends with Trinity for 3 or 4 years, but Trinity doesn't really like you. And Trinity tells you like, I don't know, Sarah, something is ick about him. And now he's telling you don't talk to Trinity, or monitoring when you reach out to her or have phone calls. Like now we've got a bigger red flag, because there's obviously some other intention there. Like they just don't want the person who's seeing through them to get access to you.
Right. So responding, okay, I'm talking to her about this. What is your intention with that question? Right. Like I encourage people in brand new relationships, like, ask what their intention is. If something feels off, ask what someone's intention is. And it could be a brand new friendship, a brand new coworkership. Like it doesn't always have to be an intimate relationship, but with the people that we are exchanging lives with every day in whatever relationship it is, ask them, what is that intent? What's your intention with that question? What's your intention with this action? Because I think that the more clarity we can get with the people that we're around, giving our time and energy and love to, the better. Right.
I think what I identified too is maybe why these things are overlooked. So why these flags are overlooked, because I just related so quickly to some of the things you said. And maybe I've dabbled in some emotional abusing in my day. And I can humbly say, I recall being like that, even to my children when I first became a mom. However, that's how I'm able to, because I've been in scenarios like that. I don't stay long. I will give myself credit that in those scenarios, I don't play victim. I don't surrender very easily, usually, but I have like 3 guys, quite a few, enough to grab my attention. Like I needed to kind of adjust what I'm attracting. But I don't stay long. However, I overlook the flags because I'm so easily can see them in myself a little bit. So you're like, oh, they're just kind of like me, but right, the intentions are, because it's normal. Everybody's been cheating on. Who wants to deal with DMs? I don't like, so I identify so quickly to overlooking those things because of like to be more humble reasons.
And then we look at the drug and alcohol abuse that goes along with intimate partner violence or domestic violence. Graham, talk to us a little bit about where you might have seen that. Like, have you seen this play out? And that you are sober, you are recovered, and I love that. 7 years. Let's give it up for Graham. But previously, like now that you are here, tell us a little bit about what
for myself, like someone who's actively in addiction and stuff like that, it's a very selfish like disease or selfish thing. And so like it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Nobody really, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, like nobody mattered really, you know what I mean? So like I wasn't so much like controlling who people saw, but like didn't give a shit about anybody, and it just fuels if you're even more on like that spectrum, if you're even more on that controlling side, then it can just fuel that even more. Because like myself, I just didn't care like the consequences of anything, as long as I could get what I wanted because it was for me and I didn't give a shit about anybody else, then you know what I mean, like that's the way it was, you know what I mean? So I think that just fuels that even more, and so since getting sober, I've had a lot of awareness as far as just like, where those triggers are as far as like, because as an alcoholic and like drug addict that I definitely identify as, like control is a thing. Like I am a controlling person, just like when I'm not spiritually fit and I'm not like being mindful and living in the present, like I want to control the situation, whatever that looks like, as far as like whether it's business or relationship or like however, things are, and so I've had to take those steps back of like, okay, why is this triggering me like this? And like, what do I got to look at, and all this stuff. And like,
I think control is a way of hiding.
Oh yeah, definitely fear. It's definitely
it.
It's definitely there's fear in there too. Like fear of 100%.
If you control the narrative, people only know about you what you want them to know.
Exactly.
If you control what your partner says, people only know that your relationship is good and your relationship is healthy because your partner isn't allowed to talk about the other things. If you control 100%. Your business, people only know you're a successful business owner. They don't know you're struggling in the background with something. So control is really a hiding mechanism.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. And I'm not saying that like that's like where I'm at all the time, but it's definitely since getting sober, from what I was like before to now, I've had to do a lot of work as far as like the feeling small and like hiding, like exactly, fear of just like,
for me, statement. So because I'm gonna say that being like I've been an addict as well, so I probably have some apologies, I should say, that are decades old. However, I do believe I was on the other side of a lot of abuse my entire life. And one of the reactions is you respond like the abuser in other ways. So I feel like I used to try to control things and people. Like I believe like I used that. So when you just said that, I was like, wow, that's something that's powerful, because it was like hiding. I've never heard it kind of said like that. It was really transformative for me. Thank you.
And then even for me, underlying all that stuff, like and what I've worked on is just fear. You know what I mean? Like fear is the thing that intertwines all of that. You know what I mean? Because like whether it's fear of like, you know, what outcomes are, or fear of your own self-worth, or fear of, you know, how it is, you know what I mean? Whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's some underlying form of fear. And when you drive through fear, you're going in wrong direction. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, a lot of, I mean, we hear a lot of like mental health terms kind of passed around, especially when we talk about intimate partner violence and the perpetrators of this. But a lot of times we hear about narcissism. Well, if you get to the root of a narcissist, a true narcissist, they're really just a person who is so unbelievably insecure.
Oh, amen. So much goosebumps with that statement. So many goosebumps. Because here's the thing, is someone who is significantly insecure is a narcissist because they're trying to control. They feel out of control of everything. And the one thing that they think they can control is their intimate relationship. And it doesn't,
and their image.
Right. And their image, right? So it doesn't always, I think that this is like a loud message I want to say, is that DV, intimate partner abuse, and it doesn't always look physical. It doesn't always look physical. It can be severe mental abuse in the most backwards way in the world, right? So it's your intimate partner taking their insecurities and putting them on you and not giving you what you need as support and love because they're trying to hurt you, right? So it all goes back to that intention. Is like, well, what is your intention here? And I think that that's an important question, that when we are sitting here, and if you are listening to this and you're like, ooh, you're feeling the feels, ask yourself, what is that person's intention? When they do that, what is that person's intention? It is going to open your eyes to what you need to see and what you need to see, right? Like what Graham said, it is freaking fearful. But when your eyes get open, that's when you can have the courage to say, all right, got a beautiful woman here who is so brilliant and educated in this and advocates. She's here to help. So talk to us a little bit about the resources that are there for someone who might be like, oh shit, right now.
I mean, honestly, the best thing that you can do is reach out to a hotline. So we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And if you call that hotline, they will get you resources local to you. There are so many organizations local to us within Maine. But they also have, because now it can be hard sometimes to like get on the phone and find a quiet place to talk where like they can't hear you. But you can also text 88788 and you can talk with someone via text message, and they can do the same things but through your text messages. So it's a little bit easier. Um, and we'll share I'll give you the hotline number to share in the show notes or whatnot. But there are a lot of organizations out there that can offer support and can offer help. One of the things that I like to also talk to people who, like, maybe you love someone who's in this situation. I know for me, when I first started talking about some of this stuff, understand that the abuser shows a different persona to the outside world. And one of the things that as a survivor makes me see red almost immediately, and I've seen it so many times, is when someone says something and you say, well, they've never been like that with me, or I've never seen that behavior from them. Like, I mean, just seriously, of course you haven't.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
believe them is what I'm saying. Like, believe them. When somebody finally has the courage to come to you and be like, hey, like, I'm really not feeling secure, safe, like something is going on and I don't know what to do about it. Then your only responsibility in that moment as that person is to believe them, and then, start talking and strategizing, um, and then, maybe direct them towards some resources, because unless you've experienced this or you're a licensed mental health professional, you're probably not capable of, providing exactly what they need in this situation. But I just remember and this stuck with me. I mean, this happened like a long time ago, but I don't know if you guys remember Alex Gray, who was big in the waterfront concerts, and his ex wrote a public letter outlining, him like breaking her jaw by smashing her against a wall and all of this stuff, and asking the city of Portland not to partner with him for business. And they interviewed some of his employees, and one of them literally said, well, he's never been like that with me. And I was just like,
shit. Like it's called intimate partner abuse, right? Domestic, like
yeah.
they have a different,
my ex-husband was the guy who would go to the bar and buy a round of drinks for everyone. Like
Yeah.
he was like this big personality. Everyone loved Steven, Steve-O, the Steven, like whatever persona he went by during that time, everyone loved him. But nobody saw him behind closed doors and when he came home. So believe them, I guess, is really just.
And it's not,
and I think that,
right? Like it's not like the door closes and this partner, it doesn't have to be the typical, the door closes and the partner is like that 24/7 with only you.
right.
There can be, even if it's once a month, it's still domestic violence, right? Like
Right.
that needs to be normalized, is that 0%, 1%, 0.5%, like that is unacceptable. No percentage is acceptable. Zero, right? So we may love that person more than life itself. It still doesn't make it okay.
Right.
You know what happened to me? So I did speak out about one particular scenario, and do you know my uncle? Like, you know who made me feel little in those scenarios? Giant men. And those are the, like, in my life at least, and those were the men I went to, and their reactions were so, I feel like shame, because I even feel like I really mentally abused people. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really feel like I've been on one when I was like younger and in that place, like, so I can identify with both. So I'm not gonna humbly sit here and say I don't, like, really, but I was physically hit when I was pregnant. And I felt very, very vulnerable. And so when I reached out to one of my uncles, he's like 6 foot something huge. He goes, "What do you mean, Danny? You can beat him up." I'm an aerialist. I'm 5'8". I come off very, she's all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of want to mess with her, like, kind of vibe, right? So, that was pretty much the response in not so many words from every male I spoke to. And then it was like they saw themselves in that person, and that was too overwhelming to help me. Even like cops, like there was a couple cops, and I'm not insulting cops because it seems like the most dangerous customer service job I've ever seen in my life. But I will say there's failures in moments. And he was like 6 foot something, and he was like, "Oh, I understand what you're going through." Bro, you're 6 foot with a gun. You have no idea what I'm going through, sir.
Yeah.
Like, I remember just like, oh, to this day, I still want to say that to his face. And I never even got the chance. And yeah, so anyways, that was my experience. I removed myself, like, and I have very strong boundaries to this day because I have to co-parent with him, but he's also not on drugs.
Right.
So
right.
it's just a really humbling place. And I'm going to be honest, in my early 20s, when I was that party girl, when I was that mess, I identified with some of the narcissist traits that you just identified in some of the abusers. And so I'm going to just hold that out there, because I think it's okay to grow as people. I think it's okay that I don't think people remain abusers necessarily. Like, cause like, I kind of like feel like I've been that person, but then I was on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like I oddly identify with so much of this conversation.
And
just really strange.
I mean, I'll say too, being fueled by drugs and alcohol, that is a thing that like will display traits of that stuff, just because that's the only thing that is in the like, that's the thing that's driving the bus at that point
for a reason.
Like, yeah, exactly. It takes over,
overcome,
100%.
right? So
Yeah,
I'm being able to practice forgiveness with my kid's father, because he's still in my life, and through sobriety I get to forgive him a little bit. And so it's interesting. I've been on a lot of sides of this conversation. It's a very deep thing, because we have to recover the abusers, because okay, and I know this is sensitive for you, but Steve not at every moment was an abuser, right? So it's like, I don't know. That's
Sarah,
just how
I'm interested because I think I want to continue this conversation because alcohol is like such a prominent substance in our community, right? In the world that is like legal and served at every corner and literally everywhere. So, is there any statistics on abuse connected with substances, like statistics that say like substance use is higher in domestic violence situations or intimate partner situations?
I haven't seen anything that said that specifically. I think what I have seen, and I don't know them right off the top of my head, is there are statistics related to drug and alcohol use and the correlation of deaths. Either, they either kill their partner, they commit familicide, right, where, they kill themselves, they kill their kids, they kill their partner. It's the same with like, if they have access to weapons, it's a real issue, right? That if you have a domestic violence charge, one of the things is that they work to keep weapons away from you. Now we all know that people still get them illegally, or they borrow from someone. So, I mean, that's what happened with Leon Hinckley in Auburn, right? Like he didn't have a legally obtained weapon with him when he went after his victim again. So they are kind of like exasperating factors for sure. But I think too that we kind of get into our heads that domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and abuse is an internal issue, meaning like internal to that family, internal to that couple. And part of the financial and economic abuse of domestic violence. So 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And that's at any degree. That's from violent assault to just like stalking, right? So it's a staggering number. 98 to 99% of them say that finances were an issue in the relationship. And 75% of that 98% state that finances were a direct reason why they couldn't get out of the relationship. I know, for me, I had no place to go.
That last part is true.
Yeah. I mean, I had no place to
sure.
go. If you have kids, like
Yeah.
it can be, pets, it can be really complicated, So for me, when I finally had to leave, because I was in like physical danger at that point. Luckily, we didn't have kids. We had a couple of cats, and I had to leave them with him. And I just went and lived in my car. So I was homeless for a few weeks until I was finally able to get over some hurdles and get my money separated from him and get into an apartment. But not everyone has that ability or that option, right? A lot of times it can be that they force you out of your job, right? So the number is that there is 8 billion days of lost time per year that's directly related to intimate partner violence and domestic violence. So that means that maybe you were beat up so bad that you couldn't go to work the next day, so you had to take time off. There are statistics out there where they have interviewed CEOs of large corporations who state that they believe that approximately 50% of their productivity issues are directly related to domestic violence and intimate partner violence, right? I mean, imagine you just had like the worst night of your life with your partner and now you have to go to work the next day and you think you're going to put 100% in? No.
Yeah. Like you're up till 3 a.m. fighting and then you got to put on a good face at 5. Like
right. I worked for both my kids were in diapers and I worked for a financial institution online, but that was before COVID. So it was pretty prominent and like, it was a big job to have. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that. And and even the nannies who got into the nannies, the people in daycare, what's funny is like, I identify my mom as being financially abused. Like she was stuck. She couldn't leave scenarios that she should have. That's what I thought of first when you said it. But at the same token, I feel like she used that same thing to like create that same harm to me.
Yeah. Because so the thing is too, there's also statistics out there of like, once you've been a domestic violence victim, you are very likely to be victimized again. If you grew up in a household that, you witnessed domestic violence, or maybe you are the child of a narcissistic parent, we are like programmed to recognize that as what is, what we deserve. Like we don't recognize that we deserve something different because that's what we grew up in, that's what we watched, that's what we saw, like this is normal for us. So it's very common for people to get into these relationships, get out, and then find themselves in yet another one. Because I know personally, when my husband, my now husband, compliments me or says nice things to me, I just get very uncomfortable. And it's just because I'm like, I don't know that like I deserve compliments. I never got them really growing up. And then I had like this marriage for 6 years. And like, now it just puts me in a very uncomfortable place because my body doesn't recognize it. So, Trishni, I don't know if we talked about this when you and I met, but I have an obsession with the idea of like narrative memories versus cellular memories. And so narrative memories is like, I'm telling you a story. Like, this happened the other day at the grocery store. Let me tell you this story. Cellular memories is when you're like a kid on the playground and somebody raises their hand above your head and your body immediately ducks, right?
Right.
Like, there's no real process there. It was just, oh, I've been hit in the head by something before. And so your body jumps in to protect you. And so these memories become part of who we are, and your body knows when to go into fight or flight. It knows when you need to do certain things. And so I like to check in with myself a lot of times if I'm having, because I do have PTSD. And so when I have like a triggered moment, it's kind of checking in with yourself and being like, body, I've got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
that book, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And you read that. Yeah.
I haven't read it. No.
Okay, Sarah, go on Amazon right after this, because it talks about that example that like we can heal, right? We can heal from trauma, we can heal from all of this, but our bodies always keep the score of what we've been through. And so, like, speaking from experience, there recently was a situation that brought a memory back, right? That cellular memory for me of like back to 5 years old, and I'm 32. It was the first time and that is like totally what you're talking about. So you have to really recognize when that happens to know where you are at in a situation. Like, your body is trying to give you red flags, trying to tell you, trying to show you, because our body's always got us, right? Like, for example, your now husband complimenting you, your body's response to his compliment is really the fight or flight. It's trying to protect you. It's like, okay, well, the last time I was complimented in a relationship, I knew what was coming, right? Like, I knew that there was a different intention. Like, your now husband has a different intention with his compliments than your previous husband, right? So Body Keeps the Score is an incredible book. Incredible.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Oh my gosh. And it talks just about that. It's like, and it doesn't even need to be domestic violence, intimate partner violence. No. It can be any trauma. And it might be trauma you don't even know you had until you read the book and you're like, wow.
Well, a lot of, so I wrote my book, and a lot of that was really therapeutic and healthy for me because part of having a PTSD is that like your body actually disassociates with some of the memories. And so like before I got like into like really good therapy with a really good person, I would have moments that I would all of a sudden feel panicked and feel a sense of dread and like something bad is about to happen. And I couldn't recognize, why am I feeling this? Going through and writing the book, I was kind of re-accessing a lot of things that I forgot and kind of never thought I would ever forget. And so through doing that, I was able to be like, oh, well, that's why when we were in the car the other day and this happened, I freaked out.
Yeah.
And now you can deal with it, right? Because now you know, okay, last time this happened, you're right. We needed the response that you're giving us, but we don't really need it right now.
Right, right. And it's normalizing, okay, give grace, grace to my body. You have protected me up until now, but now I don't need protection.
Right.
Right. Like, thank you for all that you've done. But now I'm in a different situation where I don't need that protection in the car. I know I'm safe in the car versus not being safe in the car. Tell our listeners where they can find your book, because it is incredibly impactful. Whether you are in a DV situation or you know someone, or you're like, I don't know anyone, you do, and you got to get it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, so you can purchase it online on Amazon. It's available for Kindle and paperback. Locally in Maine, the Shermans in Topsom has physical copies of the book. I probably need to deliver them some more, but and then you can also get it online from Barnes and Noble. And again, it's just Stronger Than That, a domestic violence survivor uncovers the truth about her abuser. I will say that so obviously the book talks about domestic violence. It does also talk about suicide. My ex-husband, on top of being an abuser, was also a criminal. So he committed financial crimes against me during our marriage. After our divorce, he went on to basically use what he learned through doing things to me financially against a business partner. And he was caught. There was an investigation. So I walk you through the investigation, police reports, all of that in the book. I interviewed several people. So it's kind of like a true crime / memoir book. So even if you just like true crime, if that's your thing, it's good for that as well. But he was facing felony grand larceny and swindling of over $250,000. And he was out on bond and he died by suicide.
Yeah, it's really impactful. And like I said, whether you are resonating to this conversation, what if you are feeling something and you are still here, 30 minutes into this, you got to get this. Amazing. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a powerful conversation. It's interesting too. I just wanted to throw a little plug. My girlfriend too has been, there's an organization called Riding Soldiers Association. They're like a motorcycle club, and they're all about helping with domestic violence and stuff like that. She's been getting involved with that, and it's interesting that we had this podcast today. So I'm grateful that you joined us. I hope our listeners got some realization from that, and know that anybody here right now on this podcast is happy to be an ear, or any way you can reach out. Feel free to reach out. My name is Graham, owner of Valued Productions. You can find me online. You can reach out there, at Valued Productions, VALUD Productions, or valuedproductions.com. Whether it's you're looking to grow your business with video marketing, or you're just looking to get connected with a resource, by all means, reach out. Joined with my co-host today.
Hey everyone, Trinity Baker, mindset coach and motivational speaker. I am passionate about teaching people how they can grow from their best selves through what they go through, right? So our message comes from our mess. And so I love this conversation. We can all grow through what we go through. So Trinity Baker, mindset coach. You can find me thetrinitibaker.com. I'm joined here with my co-host.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. Today's conversation was a healthy reminder of why I do what I do. I saved my own life with aerial arts, recreating self-worth that no one could take from me. This conversation brought up some old wounds, and very enlightening and healing in so many levels. So thank you so much for coming. As a intermediate and advanced aerialist, knowing the nervous system and understanding people's response physically is of a subconscious level a lot of times. Like if they can't spin backwards, or, you talked about the head, like the head being hit and having an awareness. It's interesting that information translates in so many ways, and it does in athleticism. And it's cool to know that the information I'm studying is on point with even this spectrum of things. So anyway, that's just what I want to say. Because this guest was so inspiring, so go ahead and say goodbye to our guest listeners.
Yeah, again, Sarah Doucette, author of Stronger Than That, a domestic violence survivor, uncovers the truth about her abuser. You can follow me on Instagram at mainsarah85. I do also have a podcast. We've been on hold for the summer, but we're getting ready to fire up the mics again. So it's called What's My Age Again? It's a lifestyle podcast for those of us who are older than young. It's me and my best friend of 27 years this year, just talking about being really close to the big 40 or slightly over it now for one of us. I won't say who. And just talking about how life just hits different right now. And I identify as a geriatric mother apparently, because I had my now 2-year-old when I was 36. So just navigating, parenting and all the stuff. And so it's super fun. It's definitely not suitable for work. But it's a good laugh. Yeah.
I love it.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the Unfiltered Path Podcast.
Oh, yeah, I'm recording.